Hey, hey, hey. Chapter 12 is out. Why the wait? I'm gonna be getting to that, but first off, let me introduce myself. My name is Perry, your friendly neighborhood mangaka in the making. Mangaka is just Japanese for manga artist or comic book artist. That is essentially what I am, what I'm making here. I'm a comic book creator. I write and draw my own comic for my own ongoing series, Cold Blooded. Cold Blooded is an ongoing shonen slash seinen battle manga, just meaning it's basically the equivalent to that of like an American superhero, pretty much. But the plot is centered around fighting battles. That's what progresses the plot. And I basically explained all that I do. And here's the log line, basically what it's about. Rembrandt Snart misses his dear father, and while holding out hope after his father's disappearance 5 years ago, he discovers latent reptilian abilities brought out by a shadowy figure determined to end his life. Cold Blooded is free to read on Webtoon, Tapastic, the Duck Web Comics, Pop Comics, and Medibang, that is Art Street, and now a new site called The Ninth Art. Check them out. They found me among many other artists on Instagram while promoting their site for months and months on Instagram until they finally launched it. And at that point, I was already following them, and they actually did it. So I went on it and I uploaded my comic. I want to take advantage of this new fledgling platform. I thought it would be cool if I could get in on this on the ground floor and see if they get to do, that'd be cool if they one day grow really big and get to do everything that the two guys that made it are setting out to do for creators, because they seem really ambitious. And if you want to check them out, I'll provide a link in the description. And or if you just want to type it in, it is the ninth period art in your browser. No .com or anything, just the ninth period art. And think like the ninth, like baseball. So when I first started Cold Blooded, my original plan was to put out a chapter each month. That worked for the first few months because I worked ahead and would wait to release chapters. And I quickly caught up and was hampered by it. And my releases were closer to like a month or a month and a half to 2 months. But between my last update, chapter 11, and this one, chapter 12, was 4 months, which is way too long. I don't know if it's the longest gap I've had, because I had another gap right before chapter 11, but it's way too long. But the reason is because I was working on chapter 13 and I did not want to release it until I finished 13. And that way, one, always be ahead and create hopefully a bit of a buffer for when I finally do get back to a monthly basis, which I hope to resume maybe after the next couple chapters, next chapter or two, depending on how much I get done between now and then. And two, so I can have extra content for my Patreon. As you may or may not know, as of I think the last chapter, I made a Patreon, and for $3 per paid post now. It was originally monthly, but like I said, I haven't been doing monthly, so I changed it to per paid post. You can read the next immediate chapter. So for $3, you could go read chapter 13 right now. But if not, until I complete chapter 14, chapter 13 won't be made public. Basically, you'll have to wait however long until that chapter is made free. But otherwise, if you stay on for the $3, you'll just be ahead of all the other moochers who are reading it for free, so you'll get early access. Chapter 13 is pretty much done except for the cover. I have it penciled, but I still need to ink it in color. We'll likely do that after some point on this video. Volume 1 of my manga is available in physical and digital formats. Physical copies have been available for a while now at my LCS, that is local comic book shop, The Hive Comics in Odessa, Texas. And one other location called Sci-Fi Cowgirl Design in Houston, Texas. And this is new. Last time I updated a chapter, I didn't know about them. I went to a con during at some point during these last 4 months, a very small con in Katy, Texas, and I found them. I found out about their shop. They're not exactly a comic book shop, but they sell kind of novelties and other nerdy stuff. And they were wanting comics and people that did manga or anime art, and so I gave them some books to sell, and I've sold a couple books so far. So if you're in Houston, Texas, go check out Sci-Fi Cowgirl Design. They're on Instagram. I'll provide a link in the description. You go there, they'll have their address on where you can locate them and how to get to them. And also, if you've never been there before to this spot, it's like in a building with a bunch of different shops. It's kind of like a mall. It's hard to explain. So if you get there, but the apartments apparently are labeled, I don't know, apartments, but yeah, it's weird. And also, I'm a little lost here. Aside from already being available for free to read on Webtoon, Tapastic, etc., my Volume 1 is also on Comixology for $6.99. Now, why would you want to buy to read it digitally when it's already free to read? Well, for one, it's a higher resolution, it's higher quality, and you will be supporting me in some way. But two, it's really convenient in a way, because once you buy it on Comixology, then you'll be able to access it on your phone, computer, and tablet. And I guess technically you can access Webtoon from your phone, computer, or tablet as well, but the difference is Comixology has something called Guided View, and Guided View, if you don't know what that is great. I really like it. It's a great reading experience. Basically, if you're on a touch screen or whether you're with a mouse, you'll double tap and it'll zoom in on a panel, right? And then you'll just tap once to go to the immediate next panel. And I like this because, and sometimes it'll zoom on different things within the panel. It's like a person had to come through and kind of like animate it or program it or whatever. And I like this because it's a different experience as opposed to reading it in a book format where you open the book and you see everything all at once. In a way, everything on the page is kind of spoiled to you at once. Whereas with Comixology's Guided View, it's more like almost watching a show or a movie because it's only giving you one scene at a time and you don't know what the next panel has in store for you, so you don't know what's going to happen next, as opposed to viewing everything at once. And you just tap it, and I guess you could say maybe that's better than the scrolling on Webtoon. And then you can once you buy it, you own it, and you can download it as well. Like you go on Webtoon to Tapastic, it's more like streaming something. You don't even own a digital copy of it. You just have access to it as long as Webtoon has it around, or as long as I keep it on there, right? Because there may be a day where, I decide, I don't want it on Webtoon anymore. I'm successful enough without it, but that probably won't be for a very long time. Chapter 12 is 4 chapters since chapter 8 when volume 1 ended. And I plan to keep pumping out chapters until I get enough for volume 2. but this time I am projecting it to be about 10 to 12 chapters, like I said in my last video, the last one of these. But it will ultimately depend on how the story unfolds. I want to try and end it on this current story arc I'm planning. I'm planning a second Kickstarter for Cold Blooded Volume 2 for sometime in this year, 2021. And it's beginning of the year, and I'm fairly confident it will happen this year. If I keep going at the pace I've been going, it won't. But the thing is, I know that once I pick up pace, I can get it done. But there's some other stuff I need to do first, and I'll get to that in a minute. And the last few chapters, they've been released rather sporadically. I don't really like releasing them so far apart, and I think it hurts my reach as well. And I would like to say that starting with this chapter, that will end, but it won't. But hopefully it will end within the next few chapters after release chapter 12, because I will not immediately work on chapter 14. Instead, I want to re-letter the majority of my comic, as well even add or redraw some pages here and there. And I really want to get out of the way before proceeding much further into the current story. That way, when I finally have enough material for Volume 2, I can just focus on putting Volume 2 together. And because at this point, Volume 1 will be done and it will be revamped, and hopefully the definitive version as well, and I'll be able to launch the revamped Volume 1 and Volume 2, the new Volume 2 together on my next Kickstarter. Redrawing manga is a common practice in Japan. Usually mangakas operate on a weekly or monthly deadline, and sometimes they have to rush out art to get it done in time for the magazine. But that before the release of the tankobon, that is a volume, they will redraw the art to make it look more professional, presentable, and readable. And my primary inspiration for me wanting to do this is Yusuke Murata in One Punch Man. And for me, I won't be exactly redrawing stuff. I'll be more adding stories and changing or adding to the plot. And that might sound like a big thing, but it's really not, and I'll explain why. Not only has he been redrawing pages, he and One have actually been what I write here, have actually been altering the story and the plot little by little. Not drastically, but little things here and there. And this really inspired me, and you could say in a way convicted me. Because here I am trying to make a manga, and I just have this attitude, get it done. And I think it's good enough. But can I really say it's the best I can do? I'm a lot more confident in my abilities. Plus, there are some things about the story in Volume 1 that I have some reservations about, that I would like to change or to get to include, that I believe will only enhance the plot. See, a lot of it isn't actually things I thought of afterwards, you know. Me personally, I don't like going back and changing stuff. I think once it's done, and I want to leave it alone, and I'd rather go forward. But the difference here is I really didn't get to do everything that I wanted to do the first time. It's kind of my own fault. The problem is, before I would begin storyboarding, I have ideas. I have ideas in my head that I would want to use, but I never wrote them down because I'd have these ideas in my head and I thought, oh, I'll remember it. I'll remember it all until it's time to storyboard. And then, it came time to storyboard and I boarded it, and there was things I forgot to include that I would have liked to include or at least consider while boarding. And I remembered them after the fact. Looking back, I'm like, oh, why didn't I do this or that? It's because I didn't remember, because I didn't write it down. So since then, I've wrote it down. I know exactly what I will do. I'll add, change. I haven't boarded any of it, but that's why I wrote it down. So I'll just refer to my writings before I storyboard it. And not only that, but I'll also write down any other thoughts I have about future or the immediate story arcs. That way I won't do this to myself again and write the story how I intend the first time. Um, and until my next Kickstarter, you can follow me on Kickstarter. I'll include a link to my previous Kickstarter. Just go to it, click on my name, follow me, and you'll be notified whenever it launches sometime this year. And lastly, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Perry's Hotter. For $3, you can read the next immediate chapter before the next one drops, like I mentioned earlier. And then lastly, you can follow me on any social media platform. Just search Perry S_Hotter. That is HOTTER Perry S_Hotter. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell on my YouTube channel as well, so you can keep up with videos like these. Until next time, thanks and goodbye. I bid you adieu.